Hello everyone and welcome back to the coverage of the Magnus Invitational. We are continuing with the match of round 10 Ding Liren versus Jan Nepomniachtchi, and it's quite the game and quite the match. So without further ado, let's check it out. Ding with the white pieces opens with d4 and Jan goes for knight to f6 with c4 and g6. Sorry about that. The king's Indian defense, and the Ding goes for f3. Prepares e4, and Nepo replies with d5, controls the e4 square now, but Ding just transposes into the neo Grunfeld with captures, and e4 just kicks the knight away. And the difference is, of course, there is no knight on c3 for you to capture like in regular Grunfeld. So knight to b6. We have knight to c3 and bishop to g7 by Nepo. We have bishop to e3, defending the d4 pawn, and now Nepo just castles. We have queen to d2 and knight to c6 now, adding more attackers to the d4 pawn. So Ding castles queenside, and now already you can see we have castles of opposite sides. Nepo will attack on the king side, and the Ding will of course try and bust open the position on the king side. So queen to d6, making room for the rook to enter the game. Also, you want to develop your light square bishop. And now, it's a very common position in top tier games. King to b1 and knight to b5 are the most common moves here. Ding goes for knight to b5, making it hard for Nepo to trade queens here because the c7 pawn would be hanging. So Nepo has to go back. We have queen to d7 and only now king to b1. We have a6, and now there is one game in the database where knight to a3 was played, but here Ding goes for knight to c3, and it is as of move 12 that we have a completely new game. So rook to d8, adding a fourth attacker to the d4 pawn, so Ding defends it by advancing it with d5, attacking the knight, but now queen back to e8, which prevents white from capturing due to the pin, and also prepares e6 to attack Ding's extended center. So queen to c1, now the captures is again possible, and the knight to a7 now. Nepo wants to shift the knight to b6, so if Ding captures, he will open up the a file for his rook to attack. With h4, Ding starts attacking on the king side, and now knight to b5 as planned. But of course Ding doesn't capture, just knight g to e2, adding another defender to the knight. And e6 now, of course you want to undermine that extended center. With h5, Ding continues the attack on the king side, and e captures on d5. Very principled. If your opponent attacks on the king side, you want to counterattack in the center. With h captures on g6 first, f captures on g6. You could capture with h or f, depends on how you're planning to defend, but the plus side for about capturing with the f pawn is that you can later on, if the bishop moves or anything, you can also defend the dh pawn with the queen or the rook or other pieces along the 7th rank. So first, Ding removes one of the defenders of the d5 pawn, bishop captures on b6, so now he can freely recapture on d5. We have c captures on b6, and now knight captures on d5. And the material is now equal, where Ding has the semi-open file for his rook, and Nepo still has to figure out how to go about his attack. So first, the bishop to e6. Now the rook can also enter the game via the c file. And here, it is actually very dangerous. Nepo's bishop pair is incredibly strong. If you're careless, for example, if you try something like this, you want to trade off the bishops, you immediately lose. But it's a very nice idea. You can even pause the video to try and find how Ding loses here, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting either of the moves. There are a lot of very strong moves here, like rook to c8 is obviously very strong, but the finisher is knight to a3 check. And now there really isn't much you can do here. For example, if you go king to a1, then just you continue with bishop captures here with check, king captures or queen captures. If queen captures, then you just lose the rook here, and if king captures, then it's just queen to b5 with check. And now if you go to a1, queen e5 is game over, and of course if you capture the knight, then it's just check, you have to go here, check, you have to go here, and queen to b3 is checkmate. And on the other hand, if after knight to a3 you actually capture this knight, well then you again open up the b file, and now it's just queen to b5 with check, and there's nothing you can do here. You're getting checkmated. King c2, rook to c8 with check, and that's just it. Knight c3, rook captures on c3, just just a terrible position. So you have to be very careful. It's almost the bishop pair from hell, but Ding will try everything to deny it, as the title suggests. So knight e to f4, Ding wants to eliminate one of the bishops, not allowing this diagonal to open up. So bishop to f7, and now bishop captures on b5. It seems very dangerous to open up the a file for the rook, but leaving the knight here to allow the knight some jumps here would also be very dangerous. So captures here and a3. And if Nepo doesn't finish the game with some sort of an attack, the tripled b pawn will have, well, will just make it for a terrible endgame for him. So g5 by Nepo. Rook 8 to c8 first would make more sense, and then the game just continues, but Nepo decided to go with the g5. And this, of course, doesn't work. So if it was any other player except for Nepo, I would have said that this is a blunder, but as it is Nepo, you can never tell. And I didn't catch any interviews after the game. So here, Nepo actually allows knight to c7 by Ding to go for the exchange. And okay, queen to e5, you do put pressure here, and the knight captures on a8. It's not unheard of to give up the exchange like this, to have your bishop pair, the rook, the queen, everything attacking the king on the queen side. But if you just started with rook to c8, you would still have all of that without sacrificing the exchange. So it is a bit weird. And now Ding, of course, closes this with knight to d5, not allowing any queen to e6, the queen a2 action. And here it's hard to find a move how to continue the attack. Those bishops are beautiful. That's true. But how do you make use of them? For example, if rook captures, and queen a1 check, king escapes, king c2, and if you continue checking, just king d3. You're gonna go queen b3, check king e2, and the king will be very safe on the king side. While you're still down the exchange and you still have a tripled b pawn. So here Nepo played h6, he just improved his position on the king side, but now queen c3. Now Ding says, okay, I'm up the exchange, let's trade queens. Nepo, of course, declines, and this knight really bothering him here, as he cannot reach the a2 square. So queen b4 by Ding. Now going for queen to e7 to exchange queens once again. So king to h7, and now rook to d2, just adding another defender here before the queen actually moves from the defense of the b2 pawn. So rook to c8, now getting the rook to an open c file, and the queen to e7. Again going for the queen trade. And the queen is stuck guarding the bishop on f7, so queen to g6, and now just grabbing a pawn. Queen captures on b7. So Ding feels very confident, as long as this knight is here, this bishop is doing nothing, and as long as this rook guards the b2 pawn, this bishop also not doing all that much. So Ding just grabs a pawn. We have rook to c6, now defending this pawn twice, and now queen back to d7. We have rook to c5. Now Ding wants to trade with queen to f5. If he trades queens, it's just game over. So here Nepo stops it with a nice trick, rook c5. Now, of course, if you trade captures, now you leave the knight hanging here. So black would be okay after capturing the knight. So after rook c5, Ding just goes for knight to e7, attacks the queen here. We have queen to f6, and now knight to f5. And it was in this position on move 34 that Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned the game. And Ding wins game 1 of their match. So here you resign because, well, you don't have anything. The rook still guards this, and there's no way to do anything to try and attack here. And whatever you do, Ding will just start trading off pieces. For example, if bishop e6, Ding very happily trades here everything, and then it's just two rooks against the rook and bishop, with Ding being up a pawn. And if you don't do that, there's not much. You can't even give up a second exchange to try and keep the tension with the bishop pair, because again, Ding just trades queens, captures, and it's two rooks against two bishops, of course, completely winning for white. So really wild game, and Nepo really had some great ideas, and that bishop pair was just amazing, but instead of just, well, I'm gonna go with that it's a blunder, that Nepo didn't exactly want to allow knight to c7. So g5 is okay, but first you just go rook ac8, attack the queen, and after the queen moves g5, and you continue the attack, and it looks very promising for black. So a tough break for Nepo, but there are still 3 more games in the match. We'll see what happens, and will he be able to get back into the match. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Roland Muller, James Stern, Christian Sprang, Kevin Clark, and Henry Spraggins for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. It's also Christian Sprang's birthday, so I wish you a happy birthday. Have a good one, and win many games, and have some beer if you enjoy beer. And yeah, as usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Magnus Invitational until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.